Let's. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode in the Overdose Peak Season Power Series. We've carefully designed this 6-part series for those looking to elevate their peak season game at pace. In each ep, we're here to share functional and actionable insights. We encourage your curiosity and any questions you may have. Today, my co-host B and I will be chatting all about media planning and how this will impact your peak season results. You can expect the next 20 minutes of focused highlights, followed by a short open Q&A and a final summary. So let's go. My name is Vincent. I'm the APAC Marketing Director here at Overdose, and I'm joined by B, who is our AU Digital Marketing Director. I'm going to take you through all things media planning. So today we'll go through what is media planning, what are the outcomes and goals you can get by implementing this into your strategy. We'll look at building your funnel and what this means in peak season compared to the regular times of the year. And then finally, some examples. What does it look like to go through peak season media planning? Pop your questions in the chat along the way. We'll answer them, as they come through. There'll be a bit of time for Q&A at the end as well. So would love to hear some thoughts, questions, feedback. Really great to get the curiosity into the mix. We'll be happy to answer anything that comes our way. So media planning, let's go through a little bit of a background of what this is. Effectively, media planning is a practice that involves selecting the best platforms and timing to reach our audiences, optimizing budgets for maximizing campaign effectiveness. Now, when we're operating digital marketing campaigns, quite often we're operating across multiple ads channels. So this could be, Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok, Pinterest, and then within each of these channels, there's different ad objectives that we are operating as well. There might be awareness types of advertising. There might be video ads on YouTube, and search ads. They all have a different role and a different outcome. So media planning is what we do to condense all of this down together, put it all on a page, and make sure that we're allocating the right amount of budget to each of these different areas to achieve a greater goal and a greater outcome. So how this works is that we analyze our audience demographics, our target audience. We look at things like consumer behaviors, media consumption, and we put all of this together to allocate budgets across the right selected channels and schedules to achieve that greater overall goal there. So the benefits of media planning are that you get to ensure that your plan is reaching your target goal of getting in front of enough eyeballs and getting enough frequency of how many times people are seeing your ads. Quite often we talk about the path to purchase traditionally being around 8 or so digital touch points on different channels, people clicking on a social ad and then maybe going via Google, doing a search, seeing a shopping ad appear, having multiple interactions before a purchase takes place. The path to purchase can be a lot higher than that now. Some recent reports are saying that it can take up to about 40 different digital touch points for a brand new customer to start shopping. So it is important that when we're thinking about media planning, we're considering the customer journey and all of the different steps involved and how we can nurture that person towards converting. So targeted reach. the media planning process has the benefit of having efficient budget use. We want to make sure that every dollar that is being spent effectively and efficiently and going towards achieving that greater outcome. It can provide better ROI, improved brand visibility, and also work towards an optimized campaign performance across multiple channels. I'm going to show you a bit what a media planning example looks like now. So this is a quick example here showing the breakdown of the different ads channels. So we've got meta ads here, which is Facebook and Instagram at the end of the day, and the different ad objectives and campaign types underneath there. So each of those are broken down so that we've got visibility into how much budget will go towards each of those, because there are different objectives and different outcomes within each of these. And then you can see below this, Pinterest ads, TikTok ads are in the mix there as well. And how we build up a media plan is we use historic data. So we look at what is the CPM, click-through rate, the CPC, and all of the available information that we've got, and we build out the plan of attack from there, and then start allocating budget towards each of these. And then the final outcome is that we aggregate all of the information and we look at the overall outcome from that media plan. And we can make adjustments depending on what the total goal is for each of the businesses that we work with. Every business is different. Some businesses will be looking at media planning aiming towards having an objective of getting more impressions, more engagement. Other businesses will be very revenue and return on ad spend mindseted. So they might look at things a little bit differently there. But this brings it all together, makes it work. So in practice, the important thing to do is think about your outcomes and goals and what you're really wanting to achieve here. And this is how we can build a media plan. We firstly start with research, identifying your target audience and the demographic that is most likely to be your customer. Looking at your goals, setting your campaign objectives. Like I mentioned, these will differ for every business, but it's important to have those objectives as a concrete goal, because you want to be able to make sure that everything you do is working towards achieving that. Setting up your media channels, working out where do you want to play. I'll show you in a second how we can make those decisions, and we look at where your customer is and where they're going to be more influenced by product recommendations. Execution is the next, so we allocate budget to each of those campaign types and overall marketing channels. And then the final step here is analysis. We need to measure and optimize and refine. So getting all of that information together means we can compare against what we have set out to achieve, review what has been achieved, and then make some ongoing adjustments to improve the media planning process. Now, this is why we would want to look at channel planning. This is a look at product discovery channels and what influences different demographics across different categories. So first up, we've got Gen Z. If someone is advertising to a Gen Z audience and they're in the fashion and beauty space, typically we would be recommending platforms like TikTok and Instagram as sources of product discovery. These have been rated, through a lot of research as being the places that we're seeing a lot of, Gen Z get their own product recommendations and start to say that this is how they discovered X brand, and this is what makes them engage with a new company there. And as we move down through the different demographics, you can see the millennials, Facebook's probably still a little bit more in play there. There's not as many people on Facebook in the Gen Z bracket compared to some of the older demographics there. So it's it's important to think about that when you're setting out and building up a campaign plan there to make sure that your spend is going to where your customer is. Gen Z, start to probably see a little bit more lean into the usage of Google search in the product discovery area in these categories. Interestingly, I think as well, electronics, a lot of the research out there shows YouTube is the number one place for electronics product discovery, because there's so much depth of people doing reviews, talking about, the different features, comparisons, and things like that. So YouTube's a really, really strong and key place for that type of product, compared to some of the other channels available there. So it's diverse. The outcome that we're trying to communicate here is that there are a lot of different ways that people discover products, and it's important for us to consider this when we're building out a media plan. I'm going to pass over to B now, who will take us through media planning for peak season.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Vince. So we are in October now. The first step of peak season prep and media planning is already gone, September, but it's not too late to revisit foundations. Ideally, in September, we would like to build a strategy and get the content generation done, do a few of automation audit to make sure that everything is up to scratch. We are not missing things like SMS send outs, making sure all the flows are in place, getting marketing consent on your website pop-ups, looking at last year's results and understanding what did work well and what could be improved this year. And one big thing that we really double down on, honestly, as a BAU practice, but also in September for peak season planning, is testing your creative. Running 2 ads at the same time with a minor adjustment on the creatives and picking up the winner, duplicating that in October, November to get the best possible result from that. In October, this month, our biggest focus is getting on the list, making sure we are dominating the space in the shopping results and actually utilizing the lower CPC that we see before the November period. Building up your audience, importing all of your first-party data from your email database into your ad channels, finalizing your content, and really launching and adding your campaigns as paused if possible, and queuing them on the accounts. Growing your database and slightly starting to increase your budgets to get that influx of traffic before making it rain in November. November is the time when we start scaling up our budgets and really nailing that warming up audience piece there. While in October, when we start getting influx of traffic, November is a good time to actually serving remarketing ads and really showing your campaigns to that influx of audience and SMSing your VIPs before your campaign actually launches to the public. December is a really interesting part. Don't forget about Q5, which is the period between the last end of December and the first half of January, when the volume of traffic is quite low and the CPC start dropping. Australia Post hasn't announced their cutoff date yet, but it's going to be really important to note that down and change your messaging to click and collect and gift wrapping. Shout out to Vince for this reverse Christmas tree. It's a really good little input there. So we really want to touch base on building our funnel specifically on the paid search side and the paid social space. We've added a few of campaign types on the paid search space, starting from demand gen, YouTube, and display as that brand awareness and reach piece. But I want to add a little disclaimer here and say demand gen, if set up properly with messaging, audience targeting, and placement adjustments, we tested and saw that it actually works really well as a conversion piece too. If you integrate your predictive audiences from GA4 or create lookalike audiences from your sale PDP visitors, which is a really high quality and warm audiences that's aimed at bringing sale piece there. And then Performance Max or Google Shopping, depending on your preference there, we still see a good quality result from standard shopping campaigns. If you opt out from Performance Max, then generic search and branded search as to really grab that sale audience and Black Friday specific terms on the Google Ads and Bing Ads side. TikTok, Meta, Instagram, and Pinterest, starting with reach and traffic, especially around, I would say at the moment, October is a really good time to double down on these campaign types to build your database there. And starting from the end of the month, going towards start of November, advantage shopping, purchase campaigns, lead gen, and dynamic product ads, creating your specific product type catalogs and pushing them in these social channels. It's going to really bring up the right tools for the job.
B, I'm gonna ask a question on this slide. Obviously there's quite a lot of different campaigns listed out here, and there are some strategies that and discussions around like using PMax and Advantage Plus shopping, which are almost multi-function campaign types. But what are your thoughts on building out a more comprehensive funnel across multiple objectives versus using a smaller subset of just having one or two campaign types running?
It's a tricky question, but I think there's no one single answer across all clients. We always do have a look at the tests that we've done up to that big sale period. With especially, it reminds me one of the tests that we've done on a specific client, which is a global outdoor wear brand. And in there, we found success in launching multiple campaign types, first testing, moving a few of the high-performing, high AOV and margin products into standard shopping on the paid search space and leaving the rest in Performance Max, and really comparing the results there to see which one is giving us the break-even ROAS or even a higher ROAS with keeping the margin in place. We have a little bit of a slide on that in the upcoming ones, but I would say we always need to test. Like there is no single answer, like a blanket rule for that.
Yeah, good call. I think I'm definitely a bit old school, and having different campaign types, different objectives, different audiences makes me feel more confident that I see the results and I see where the money's going. Whereas some of the newer campaign types, they're a black box. You don't really get to know much about what's happening behind the scenes, and they might produce a really good result on the surface, which is obviously great, but you sometimes want to have that confidence to know that the plan and the strategy that you've built is being reflected by the the outcome in the media.
100%. Cool. So here's a little bit of a best practice suggestion from us in terms of really maximizing your budget allocation efficiency. Starting from September and October, our suggestion is to allocate the majority of your budget towards tough campaigns. And then starting from November till December, end of December, gradually increasing towards MOF and BOF campaign types to double down on building the funnel and moving them towards that conversion space. Here's a little timeline breakdown of what we are expecting and what we saw last year during the peak period in terms of the rising ad costs and cost per 1,000 impressions. Around really bang on Black Friday, CPMs and CPCs skyrocket. So we highly suggest across the board every year to really start advertising ahead, probably from mid-month of October towards the end of it, to start getting that traffic accumulation and database growth with a cheaper cost per click and cost per 1,000 impressions, to build that efficiency and get that volume in. And then towards the Black Friday period where costs start to skyrocket, doubling down on that conversion phase instead. Yeah, so this is like $1 million question, right? Uncapped budgets. Is this a reward or a risk? This is something Vince and I, we always talk about to try to understand what are some of the guardrails that needs to be in place. I think if you are exploring the idea of uncapped budgets, there needs to be some sort of safety guardrail. What might be some of the rewards if you were to have an uncapped budget? Maximized reach, but one little thing here that we all need to be across is the quality. If you go uncapped and really focus on only reach, the results might not be really on point. Increase brand visibility, enhance flexibility in terms of launching more campaign types, adding more product categories, improving ROI. I mean, as long as if you have guardrail, you can really improve your ROI there. And competitive advantage, because during that period, all of the brands and merchants are going to really increase their spend. And if you have an uncapped budget, you are more likely to show up more and get a bigger search impression share there. But how about some of the risks? Overspending and also losing margin if you don't really keep that in your calculation and look at your unit economics analysis, which we are going to cover in the next slide. Ineffective allocation, which could be investing more on awareness space if you're not really doubling down on that funnel budget allocation and leaving it uncapped. Market saturation if you don't have a look at your frequency. Lack of focus and short-term mindset. I'm interested in hearing from you, Vince, around where you're sitting with this topic and if you've tested that in the past at all.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. Like we do hear this from our reps leading up to peak season to have budget headroom and to even test uncapped budgets for those key sales dates. And yeah, there's some really good risk and reward things to consider into the mix. I think, and I have worked with businesses who have taken this approach in the past. Like they're very much about market share, grabbing as much revenue that's on the table as possible. The most important thing is being very present during that sale period. And, we're talking, checking back in on results like every half an hour, every hour, multiple times during those sales periods, just to make sure that someone's got their hand on the, emergency brake if the results start to drop out and, we kind of head into that risk territory where we're overspending and getting this kind of ineffective outcome. But in saying that, we do see conversion rates are really high during those periods. So a lot of the time, if you are operating, relatively targeted campaign and you've got, really good historic data that you're working with and your unit economics, you could definitely have this more aggressive approach, but just be ready to kind of press stop if something starts going down the different path. The other thing that's really interesting is not everyone's got infinite stock on hand, so you might have a really strong sale period there, but you might end up blowing through a lot of your stock and selling out of things that you might have been better selling at a full price in the kind of weeks leading up to Christmas.
Yeah, that's a really good call. I think we have some questions. A question from Nathan. When working with a limited budget and investing in top of funnel activity, what metrics other than ROAS can be used to gauge effective performance?
Yeah, I love that question, Nath. Top of funnel for me, it's all about genuine quality traffic and engagement. Reach and impressions are great, but we need to make sure that they're the right people and that they're actually, falling into the funnel in a way that we're going to expect them to move through there. So I would like to see in top of funnel campaigns, I would like to see those metrics like, are we getting good reach, good impressions? Is CPM at a good level? Are we able to be more efficient there? Are we getting on Facebook? We can see things like, are people saving the posts? Are they sharing it? You know, what's happening behind the scenes that aren't necessarily showing like a one-to-one purchase type of engagement? We're not really expecting that from these people because they are having that first touch point in that area. Frequency is another one, making sure that we're getting hopefully, you know, multiple touch points, but we're obviously not oversaturating that audience there as well. And then finally, for me, it's traffic quality measured within GA4. You know, really, it's really great to see when you've got top of funnel traffic coming onto the website. They're staying there. You know, they're spending a minute on the website, having a look around. Maybe they've added to cart. Anything like that says to me, this is good quality. I'm happy to invest there. How about you, B?
Yeah, 100%. And maybe one last thing that I would add is also monitoring your new sessions percentage versus existing. If your goal is to get new customers in, really increase your reach and brand awareness and new customer acquisition, it's important to review that percentage difference between new sessions versus the existing ones. I think we have one more question. Yep. What are some strategies we can use prior to peak to acquire quality TOF audiences?
Another really great question there. I love lead generation at this time of the year. I think this is a really good time to get people into your database. You know, once you've acquired them, it's going to be a lot easier to connect with people when things start to get really busy. We'll start to notice that, you know, every ad on Instagram is about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Emails are going to be, you know, your inbox is going to have a lot of promotions. Even the TV, most ads on TV start to turn into, you know, some of your big store retailers will be advertising for November. So it's all about standing out and really getting visibility. Having that ability when you do lead generation means that you've got access to those people to connect with them through multiple channels and multiple ways there. So that's, for me, you know, two birds with one stone outcome. You actually get the top of funnel reach and engagement, but you've got a really good way of connecting with them when it counts. What are your thoughts?
I definitely agree with that. And I feel like really comparing your ad channels together and taking learnings from the other platforms that you run ads on is also really good. It's a really good strategy to replicate what worked well in terms of acquisition in the TOF level. Yeah, Google and Meta, they don't really communicate well through GA4, but there are some tools like Supermetrics that you can use to really merge the data and create something that you can take away as actionable insights. Sweet. The next slide is about unit economics, and we use this before big sale periods and at the start of financial year to really set the scene and understand the break-even ROAS and the ROAS target by considering our client's margin. We've added a mock-up data on the right-hand side with a column for industry estimates from Google's input. And thank you, Google, for helping us add that in here. It's about understanding your profit per order and accompanying break-even acquisition cost. So what we name as profit in dollar value is, the calculation is pretty much visitors multiplied by conversion rate and lifetime value and deducting your variable costs. Variable costs might mean your cost of goods sold, such as your shipping costs, your return rates, which can change from category to category or even from customer to customer. When we have a look at your break-even ROAS, what we consider is a calculation is your average order value divided by your average order value and deducting that from your cost of goods sold and your ad platform cost of acquisition. That gives you a break-even ROAS. It differs from account to account and client to client because AOV is not the same, cost of goods sold is not the same. Your profit per order might change by looking at your return on customers percentage, your repeat order rates, and even your fulfillment costs. So that's the minimum ROAS that we should aim for during the Black Friday period, and even as a BAU practice to make sure you're not losing any money from your advertising initiatives. If we want to take it a step further and also look at your margin, our best practice suggestion is to get that break-even ROAS and divide that by your profit margin. In this example, we got 40% as the margin as a mock-up example. So you divide that to your break-even ROAS to get your marginal ROAS target. So that is your profitable ROAS, minimum profitable ROAS. And let's say if you're getting a higher average ROAS on your account than your profitable marginal ROAS, that tells us that there's a scalability option while keeping your margins safe through your advertising channels.
So this would be a good one to think about if you were doing, uncapped budgets, to have that number in mind, right?
Definitely. It's your guardrail pretty much.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, we've got a couple of slides left. So moving on to the review, what do we look for when we're at the end of our peak season period, we're analyzing performance, we're thinking about, what did we learn? What would we do differently next time? Are we happy overall? So it's important that we go through and we measure everything for the campaign against what we set out in that initial media plan. And then we'll be able to build an idea of how we, performed against the major objectives that we're trying to achieve as part of the overall strategy here. So just as an example here, we've looked at the results. We're saying, yes, clicks were great. We had enough traffic that came through, and revenue was up, and we achieved our revenue target. Those are good outcomes. Most businesses would be very happy with that. However, impressions were down. We didn't actually get to our impressions target. Maybe the CPM was higher than we expected at that time of year. Maybe the different campaign types and budget allocation meant that we were moving spend away from awareness towards revenue. So there might be some conversations there to say, do we want to move more budget towards awareness, drive some more, engagement through video or through display platforms? Do we need to look at decreasing spend on campaigns with higher CPCs and higher CPMs? Or maybe we actually can take a look back and go, you know what, we're actually really happy here. Revenue's, probably more important to us. So let's adjust our KPI targets for the coming month and make sure that, we can continue to perform at this level. So just as a recap of what we would recommend there, you go back to your media plan and you'd actually fill this in and pull that data in to be able to look at that against each of the different campaigns, and that will give you a really good granular view of what the outcome needs to be and what you need to be doing differently. I will put one caveat in here, is that media planning is kind of under the assumption that your campaigns are optimized quite well and that you're happy with your overall campaign targeting and performance and creative and things like that. So it is really important when we're doing media planning to make sure that everything there is operating well and that we're really confident that the money and the campaigns themselves are well set up. Now, one thing that's on the horizon that's really exciting is the rise of AI-driven media mix modeling tools. So media mix modeling is it's a form of media planning that historically has been done much more in by statisticians and people who have that ability to crunch down data from lots of different multiple channels, not just digital. We're talking like above the line media, TV placements and things like that. That has been in market for quite a long time, but what we're seeing now are the rise of these open source media mix modeling tools from the likes of Google with their Meridian and Meta with Robin. They're both entering the market with open source MMM tools to help make these decisions a little bit easier for people, because at the end of the day, when we're making these adjustments and improvements, we do want to make sure we've got data-driven decisions leading the way. But when we bring in the use of AI and the use of some of this, next level processing, it does help have some advantages here. So what this is trying to do is take all of the input information that we give, all the results, and then spit out a media plan and a media mix that is more reflective of our outcomes. So advantages there being it reduces our human bias, it enables actionable decision making. There is data privacy within these models as well. That's a big part of, in this space, people want to use AI, but they don't want to give away their data to who knows where. It's a cost-effective solution. Some of the media mix modeling projects in the past used to be tens of thousands of dollars to complete, whereas now we're getting into a position here where it's much more cost-effective, which means it can be done more frequently, and you can use that towards your analysis more frequently. So it's pretty exciting stuff. We're starting to hear a lot more and talk to a lot more companies about MMM, so keep an eye out for it in the future. So that's it for us. We're going to head into some Q&A time now. So feel free to please drop any comments onto the chat, so Bea and I can have a read through and address any further questions you might have. Before we get into that, Bea,
Yes.
How's your Christmas shopping going? Do you have anything in mind?
I've started to create a list, 100%. But the things that I'm looking at is mostly like high AOV, I would say. So I'm looking for the bargains that might pop up. I'm mostly interested in, like, for myself, getting one of the ebooks to take notes, like Remarkable.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah. How about you?
Fantastic. I've already bought myself my Christmas present.
Did you?
I got a lawnmower last week. So that was my gift to myself. And that was a good mixture of online research and articles and YouTube videos and things like that. But no, I am starting to think about other people at this time of the year as well. And
Yeah.
definitely, it's all about interacting, finding things. Like my algorithm on my Facebook and Instagram accounts quite well tuned now, so I'm getting served quite good ads there, and saving different content. But I'll definitely be shopping during the sales.
Same.
I know what's up.
Same here.
All right. Well, thanks, Bea, for joining me today as we've talked through everything about media planning. And thank you for everyone for dialing into the Overdose Peak Season Power Series. So today we've discussed all about what media planning is, the benefits, how this changes during peak season, and how to get the best out of your budget allocation. We've carefully designed this 6-part series for you e-com professionals looking to elevate your peak season game at pace. So share the links around the team. Please join us next week for episode 6 in the Peak Season Power Series, where we'll be going through everything relating to Shopify and conversion rate optimization. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.